Should be Dave. Check it out. Stone or Jesus Show, we're live on the air. Is this Dave?
Yes, sir.
Dave, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
No problem. I was just telling people about all the projects and shit you're involved in. But first, and I have to say that I listen to Legion of Skanks and Part of the Problem as much as I can. And,
awesome, dude. I appreciate it.
No, it's absolutely great shit. But I didn't catch how this all began. But I know that I guess you're about a month into no weed and no drinking. Has it been about a month, and how'd that get started?
Yeah, it's been almost exactly a month, and I just kind of, I wanted to just kind of do a month, and basically I decided to do the month of March and just go completely detox. And I don't know, I just think every now and then it's kind of good to do. And I was, just at a point where I was drinking and smoking like a ton, and so I just kind of wanted to, flush out the system. I'll be back soon, though.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like sounds awful. Just the whole thing.
It's good and bad in a way. It's like I need the balance sometimes, and I'll go from smoking all day every day to just like not smoking at all.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I want to kill people sometimes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are there any changes that you can notice?
Yeah, man. One of the things I really noticed when I stopped smoking weed is I have like really intense dreams. That's like the biggest thing. And besides the intense dreams, it's just a feeling of wanting to strangle people.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, just for the tiniest thing sometimes. Someone like bumps into you and you're like, I want to fucking kill that guy. But, I don't. I just think it.
Yeah, well, that's good. So, you say you're going to do the month, or are you going to try to stretch it out a little bit more, or are you just going to play it by ear?
Well, I'm really just doing the month of March, and then I'll be back to my old ways.
Yeah. Fuck all that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So as mentioned earlier, you do stand-up comedy in New York, and you're
Yes,
on the
sir.
Legion of Skanks podcast, which I imagine a lot of people know you from. How did Legion of Skanks with Jay and Lewis come together?
Well, me and Jay and Lewis were been good friends for years. Probably at least like a decade now. The three of us were, very close friends. And I think a lot of people had encouraged us to do a podcast. And Lewis really was the guy who was like the one who finally got us to do it. Lewis, this is like years ago, 3-4 years ago now. He like bought all this equipment and set up kind of like a studio in his apartment. And Lewis has always been kind of the most motivated and the most business savvy out of us. And he kind of just encouraged us to start doing it at his apartment. Then ultimately we moved it to the creek in the cave. And then at some point, for some weird reason, people started listening to it. And now it's like a thing that we actually all make money off of and do regularly, and we built a fan base out of it, so it's great.
It's definitely one of the more popular podcasts out there. And like I said, with so many podcasters, people are splitting up their time and everything's so fragmented. It's one of the few podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis. It's consistently funny.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, like Lewis is just such a character. He's such an over-the-top, hilarious human being. And Jay is just Jay might be the funniest guy on the planet. So it's pretty hard to not make it entertaining.
Yeah, and I'm sure you get this a lot, but my favorite part is the Lewis voice.
Yeah, a lot of people like that. That's probably my favorite part too, and that's literally something that that me and Jay were just doing in life for years. It's really funny to me still that it's become such a thing that's just, we just kind of, Lewis just has this crazy deep, raspy voice, and we just always make fun of him, like him yelling at his dog, I think is how it started. We're like, Smart, sit down, and we'd all, do the voice and make fun of him, and then, that just kind of seeped into the podcast.
So I guess at some point you wanted to talk more about politics and stuff, and I imagine that's how Part of the Problem came together?
Yeah, that was, I like around, so I was already doing comedy for a while. I think I started comedy around 2004, and then around 2007, 2008, I got really into, with the Ron Paul campaign, I got really into like libertarianism and politics, and I just started getting like obsessed with it. And a lot of people, I got to say, particularly Nate Bargatze, who's a very good friend of mine, a hilarious comedian. If you guys don't know him, you should check him out. I think he's going to be back on the Tonight Show next week. But he was really the guy who really encouraged me to do it for a long time. For a while before I started it, he was really encouraging me to do it. And, yeah, it was just kind of just like became kind of my outlet to vent about politics and philosophy and that stuff. And then as the Legion of Skanks audience grew and I started getting on like Fox News and stuff like that regularly, the audience for that started growing. So that's been fun now that people are actually listening and into it.
Yeah, it's a great show. Like I said, for anybody who likes politics and that type of discussion, it's definitely a great show. Obviously, from a libertarian point of view, have you been paying any attention to the libertarian nomination race or what's going on with the party itself?
Yeah, a little bit. I watched one of the debates that they had, and I pay attention to it a little bit. I think it's an interesting. I like Austin Peterson and I like Gary Johnson. Those guys are all cool, and I think it's definitely there's an interesting opening this year. If it's Trump and Hillary, which it looks like it's going to be, there's a lot of people, myself included, who don't really care for either of them, and I think that there's going to be an opening there. I think. Libertarianism, I truly believe if you're just honest and open, that's the conclusion you're going to come to.
Yeah.
So I think the more people get out there and kind of spread the message, the better. But truthfully, I mean, the way politics are set up in this country right now, it's kind of a rigged game. So I don't see a third-party candidate winning anything, but I think it's always good to, spread the message.
Absolutely. I registered as a libertarian, I think, in 2004. I came from like a Rush Limbaugh, neocon, George W. Bush background, and kind of, But when I got on MySpace in 2006, one of the first things that I started hearing about was Ron Paul. And, things just went from there. It's, like you said, there was the big opening this year because there's a lot of Republicans who hate Trump and a lot of Democrats who hate Hillary, and a lot of people who hate them both.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be interesting. I think if the Libertarian Party can just, gain a little bit of traction, it's better at least for the next go-around.
Sure. Yeah, I think every step, every new person that you can kind of wake up is one more step, So anything they can do with that, and in a way, it's great. It's great for us to have Hillary Clinton as the Democratic nominee because she just exposes how what a bought and paid for system that whole party is, and Trump, as much of a buffoon as he kind of is, and he bothers me with a lot of the stuff that he says and his kind of lack of understanding of any serious issue, but he. Even how much he's got the neocons' panties up in a bunch, I really do enjoy, and I think that exposes the truth. And how much they're flirting with stealing it from him just reminds everybody that they can steal it from him. Like, your vote is meaningless.
Absolutely. Yeah, they say, well, the system is rigged, like you said, and it's just, I don't know, I guess it's disheartening sometimes, but it is what it is, and with the internet, at least we have a chance to get shit out there and make people think about stuff.
Yeah, well, that's definitely been a game changer. I mean, there's no question that, like, when, I think about things from my childhood, like when Ross Perot tried to run and things like that, and how drastically different the world is when there wasn't the internet and you didn't have this thing where, he couldn't just go on a podcast and talk for 2 hours about what his philosophy is and why he's running on this stuff. And that's why they were so scared when he got in the debates, and they did everything they could to make sure that a third party guy will never be in a debate with the two of them again. And I really would be interested today with the internet and how much people do read up on all this stuff, how much, if you could get one of those guys in there, I think they would just expose your average Democrat or Republican.
Absolutely. So transitioning out of politics back to weed, of course. We ask this most people who come on the show and who smoked weed in the past. If I ask you about the highest you've ever been, is there like a specific instance or event that comes to mind?
No, yeah, it does. It does. I remember it was, so I guess which is the last time probably that I quit for a while. But not, when I say a while, I went, it was 7 weeks I went without smoking, and this is years ago. Yeah. So maybe like three years ago or something like that. And it's actually on an episode of Legion of Skanks. So me and Lewis both went 7 weeks without smoking, and then we smoked right before the podcast. And I mean, it's just like, it's like doing mushrooms or something like that. It's incredible. I remember that, so that's on a podcast. Lewis actually falls asleep in the middle of the podcast. So I'm just sitting there seeing things all around me. But then I remember, like, the next day, I went with the girl I was dating at the time and a friend of hers, and we smoked a blunt. And when you haven't been smoking for a while, you take like 2 hits and you're good.
Yeah.
And we just smoked a blunt, like a big fat blunt, and I mean, it was It was literally like I did a heavy dosage of mushrooms. I was just tripping my face off. It was great.
Wow. Maybe you have that to look forward to.
Yeah, that's right. I'll tell you, that is starting to get me excited the more I approach this month being over. That's when you know you're a real deal pothead, even when you're not smoking pot, your biggest motivator is like, man, I'm going to get so high once I get back to pot.
It's going to be awesome. So as I mentioned earlier to the audience, we had Ralph Sutton on, I guess it was about 4 months ago.
Yeah, I'm actually at Ralph's apartment right now. He was just telling me.
Awesome. So this is your chance to make Ralph happy. You're on the Gas Digital Network. Can you tell us a little about the shows on there and plug away? Yeah,
so the Gas Digital Network's the network that Ralph just started with Louis J. Gomez, my partner from the Legion of Skanks podcast. And it's, dude, they're building up a real cool network here. My show, Part of the Problem, Ralph and Big J's show, the SDR show, Lewis's Real Ass podcast, and then there's this another great show called High Society Radio with my boy Chris and also Pepper Hicks, Chris Stanley from the Bennington Show. And they got some other shows I can't talk about right now, but they got a few other big ones that are about to come out. So I'm very excited about that. GasDigitalNetwork.com. Go check it all out.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. You're on your Comic Dave Smith on Twitter. Is there any other social media? You on Facebook or any of that?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, D Smith Comic, and Twitter. That's really the only social media I use. But yeah, man, go check out the shows and follow me and stuff. And yeah, man, thanks for having me on, brother.
Not a problem. Thanks, Dave. And anytime you want to promote anything or just shoot the shit or whatever, let us know.
All right, sounds good, man.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, later.
Dave Smith, stand-up comedian, Comic Dave Smith on Twitter. It is a good show. If you like politics, Part of the Problem. If you just like funny shit, Legion of Skanks. It doesn't get much better than that.